The Doctor, Ian, Barbara and Susan are travelling in the TARDIS, trying to get back to Earth, when the TARDIS develops a fault and the doors swing open mid-flight. The Doctor tries to work out what the fault might be, but he's worried that the TARDIS fault locator might have a fault.
We're not going to blow up or anything, are we?
No, of course not.
After landing safely, the travellers explore their surroundings to find that they are on Earth. But it soon becomes apparent that they have been shrunk down to around an inch tall. The TARDIS is manipulating space as well as time.
It isn't possible, Susan. It's ridiculous.
Oh, Ian, work it out for yourself. The doors of TARDIS open. That means the space pressure forced us to reduce.
The travellers encounter several giant creatures in the garden where they have landed, and Ian falls into a giant matchbox.
Run, Susan, run!
The matchbox gets picked up by a man called 𝗵, who is concerned about a new insecticide called DN6 that a ruthless businessman called Forrester is developing. 𝗵 warns Forrester that the new insecticide is too dangerous to be used in farming because it kills everything, including the insects essential to agriculture.
Surely it's wrong to kill bees and worms and things, isn't it?
Quite so. Both are vital to the growth of things.
Forrester doesn't care about how dangerous the insecticide is. All he cares about is money, so to protect his business, he shoots 𝗵. Ian eventually escapes from his matchbox prison and meets up with the others, who narrowly avoid becoming cat food.
Grandfather!
Whilst trying to get back to the TARDIS, the travellers avoid the giants by choosing the worst hiding places they can find, including climbing into a briefcase, climbing up a drain pipe, and hiding down the plug hole of a kitchen sink.
Now, the sooner we get out of here, the better.
Barbara fondles some massive nuts and gets infected by the deadly insecticide, but she hides the fact from her companions.
You all right?
Yes, I'm fine. I told you I haven't eaten for ages. I think that's what it must be. Don't make a fuss.
After discovering that the insecticide could be harmful even to humans, the Doctor suggests they make a phone call to alert the authorities.
Can you hear us?
When that doesn't work, they start a fire, which draws the attention of a local police officer, who arrests Forrester.
DN6 is more deadly than radiation. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Get the briefcase.
The team arrive back in the TARDIS, and the Doctor repeats the same sequence of events that happened when they landed in order to return them back to normal size, which greatly reduces the amount of poison in Barbara's bloodstream, saving her life.
Well, here we are then. The patient is beginning to look her usual self again.
Thank you, Doctor.
Not at all, my dear boy. Always at your service.
The TARDIS lands under a bridge in London. Excited to be home, the travellers leave the TARDIS, but quickly realise something isn't quite right. Whilst climbing a wall to look around, Susan falls and causes an unstable bridge to collapse, which blocks the entrance to the TARDIS. The Doctor is annoyed and treats Susan like a child.
And you bathe that ankle. What you need is a jolly good smack bottom. Come on.
They have arrived in the distant future, and Earth has been invaded by the Daleks.
We are the masters of Earth. We are the masters of Earth.
The Daleks have killed most of the population with a plague, and anyone left alive has been either forced into slave labour or converted into a mindless, zombie-like Robo-Man.
Stop.
We are the masters of the Earth.
Not for long.
Obey us or die.
I think we'd better pit our wits against them and defeat them.
I can hear you.
Barbara and Susan hide from the Daleks with the Human Resistance Movement, while Ian and the Doctor are captured and taken to the Daleks' flying saucer.
I don't understand this at all. We saw the Daleks destroyed on 𝗵𝗃. We were there.
My dear boy, what happened in 𝗵𝗃 was 1,000,000 years ahead of us in the future.
Before the Doctor can be converted into a Robo-Man, the rebels attack the flying saucer with their new Dalek-killing acid bombs, which don't work. Although ineffective, the attack does allow the Doctor to escape and rejoin Susan. Ian hides in the Dalek's saucer, which takes off and makes its way to a mysterious mine in Bedfordshire. Barbara decides to go to the mine because she thinks that's what the Doctor would do. She starts up an old van from a museum and uses it to smash through a Dalek blockade.
I rather enjoyed that.
To escape from the now Dalek-infested London, the Doctor and Susan travel north with David, a resistance fighter.
We could go to a place we've never even heard of Daleks.
And what happens if there's something unpleasant in the new place?
We'll move on somewhere.
No, Susan, that's not for me.
Why not?
Look, things aren't made better by running away.
Well, it's suicide to stay here.
This is my planet. I just can't run off and see what it's like in Venus.
I never felt there was any time or place that I belonged to. I've never had any real identity.
One day you will. There'll come a time when you're forced to stop traveling, and you'll arrive somewhere.
Barbara's van gets destroyed by a Dalek saucer, but she escapes the explosion, only to be betrayed by two human women who give Barbara's location to the Daleks in exchange for food.
You will follow me.
After arriving at the Dalek mine, the Doctor and Susan start to investigate. Well, the Doctor investigates, and Susan has, other plans. Ian escapes from the Dalek saucer and meets some of the locals, including the Black Dalek's pet monster called the Slither. Ian explores the Dalek mine and eventually finds himself inside the Dalek control room, where he overhears the Daleks discussing their plan, called Operation 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀. The Daleks are mining down to the centre of the Earth, so that they can detonate a bomb near a fissure in the Earth's core. This will, apparently, eliminate all of the gravitational and magnetic forces in the Earth's core. Once they have removed the core, they plan to replace it with a power system that will enable them to pilot the whole planet anywhere in the universe.
They dare to tamper with the forces of creation?
Yes, they dare. And we have got to dare to stop them.
And of course, after they've created their planet-sized spaceship,
Then arrange for the extermination of all human beings. Our final solution. Clean up this planet.
Ian hides inside the Dalek's bomb capsule and sabotages the bomb. But the Daleks are not too happy about that. So they drop Ian down a mine shaft. Meanwhile, the Doctor has realised that the Daleks are receiving their power via satellite dishes attached to their backs, so he sends Susan and David to break a cable leading to a power relay mast, which cuts off the Daleks' power supply and disables them all.
Increase complete, power loss complete.
You'd have thought something like that would have been better guarded. Loose in the control room, Barbara gives the Robomen orders to attack the Daleks, causing a global rebellion to begin. Recovering from his fall, Ian has blocked the mineshaft so that the repaired bomb doesn't go all the way down to the Earth's core. The bomb still causes a mighty explosion nearer to the surface, however, and the disabled Daleks are all destroyed. As thanks for saving the Earth, the Resistance fighters help the Doctor to dig out the TARDIS. The Doctor realises that Susan is no longer the little girl who needs a smacked bottom, but she is now an independent woman, ready to start her own life without him.
But I love you, Susan. And I want you to marry me.
You see, David, Grandfather's old now. He needs me. Oh, David, I do love you. I do.
Knowing that she would never willingly leave him, the Doctor locks Susan out of the TARDIS and says an emotional goodbye to his granddaughter.
Grandfather, I belong with you.
Not any longer, Susan. You're still my grandchild, and always will be. But now, you're a woman too. I want you to belong somewhere, to have roots of your own. With David, you'll be able to find those roots, and live normally like any woman should do. Believe me, my dear, your future lies with David, and not with a silly old buffer like me. One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. Goodbye, Susan. Goodbye, my dear.
The TARDIS lands in a...
Excuse me. Materialized, I think, is the better word.
Sorry, the TARDIS materializes in a dark cave on the planet Dido. The Doctor putting a brave face on his sadness at the loss of Susan.
No, I do think we ought to step outside and have a look. I will too. Susan, just...
Doctor, why don't you show me how to open the doors?
Yes, my dear, of course, yes.
Nearby, the two survivors of a spaceship crash await rescue. An injured man called Bennett, who is unable to walk, and a young, recently orphaned girl called Vicky.
Look, Vicky, I know how badly you want to get off this planet. We both want to get away, but it's no good building up our hopes. Go and radio the rescue ship. You'll find your mistake. And Vicky, watch out for 𝗂𝗂𝗀.
The two live in fear of one of the planet's inhabitants called 𝗂𝗂𝗀, who has apparently killed the rest of the ship's crew. 𝗂𝗂𝗀 collapses a cave on Ian and throws Barbara off a cliff. But they both survive, and Barbara is rescued by Vicky.
Is that short for Victoria?
No, just Vicky. 𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃.
Ian and the Doctor make their way through an elaborate cave system, past traps and a monster, to meet Barbara at the crashed ship.
What are you looking like that for?
Well, like what?
You're sorry for me, aren't you? I'm perfectly all right, you know. I don't care if nobody ever comes. I'm fine. I'm perfectly all right.
The Doctor quickly deduces that 𝗂𝗂𝗀 is, in fact, Bennett in disguise. It was Bennett who killed the other crew in order to conceal an earlier murder that he had committed on the ship.
Mr. Bennett, may I remind you that masks and robes such as you are wearing are only used on absolutely ceremonial occasions?
Are you finished?
The Doctor confronts Bennett, who confesses to murdering the ship's entire crew, including Vicky's father and the inhabitants of the planet, leaving only Vicky alive to act as his alibi when they are rescued. Bennett then attacks the Doctor. The Doctor is saved by the sudden appearance of two humanoid inhabitants of the planet, who walk toward Bennett menacingly until he falls off a cliff.
Then Bennett murdered my father. Then I've got nobody.
My dear, why don't you come with us?
In that old box?
We can travel anywhere and everywhere in that old box, as you call it, regardless of space and time.
Then it is a time machine.
And if you like adventure, my dear, I can promise you an abundance of it. Apart from all that, well, you'll be amongst friends. Well?
The Doctor, Ian and Barbara all come to the same conclusion that Vicky, who is now all alone, should go with them in the TARDIS.
But it's huge. And the outside is just...
Well, Vicky, are you going to come with us?
Oh, I'd like to. Yes, if you'll have me.
Here we are, safely down.
What's that movement, Doctor? Well, surely you can feel it.
Doctor, what's happening?
No,
Take off again, Doctor.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
The TARDIS falls off the side of a cliff immediately after materializing, but the travellers are uninjured and find themselves near Rome in 64 AD.
What's the matter, my slip showing?
No. I was just thinking what a splendid-looking Roman you make.
They find an abandoned villa and decide to have a holiday. After a month of relaxing, the Doctor and Vicky become restless and decide to visit the city of Rome.
You never told us you were going away.
Oh, well, I don't know that I was under any obligation to report my movements to you, Chesterfield.
Chesterton.
Oh, Barbara's calling you.
After they leave, Ian and Barbara are kidnapped by slave traders.
Run, Barbara!
Oh! Ian!
On the way to Rome, the Doctor discovers the dead body of the recently murdered Lear player, 𝗵𝗵𝗀. The Doctor assumes 𝗵𝗬ulian's identity in order to meet the Roman Emperor Caesar Nero. Whilst travelling to Rome, the Doctor is attacked by an assassin.
Oh, so you want to fight,
Doctor, what's happened?
You know, I am so constantly outwitting the opposition, I tend to forget the delights and satisfaction of the gentle art of fisticuffs.
Meanwhile, Barbara is taken to a slave market.
I'll have to see about getting you some new clothes.
You needn't bother.
It's not for your sake. I want you looking special at the slave auction.
Ian is forced into the galley of a ship, but when the ship is wrecked in a storm, he escapes with a fellow slave called Delos, and the two of them make their way to Rome to rescue Barbara. Barbara's compassion gets her noticed by 𝗃𝗄𝑠, who buys her for a large sum of money to work in Nero's house. After arriving in Nero's palace, the Doctor warns Vicky not to meddle with history, which is a different stance to the one he held last season, where he claimed it was impossible to change historical events.
And remember, we're only here as observers. We must not interfere with the course of progress, or try to accelerate man's achievements or progress.
Oh, I'll do what you say, Doctor, but it does seem a bit of a waste.
Nero takes a liking to Barbara.
Gotcha! Gotcha!
Since Nero thinks he is a famous musician, the Doctor is forced to devise amusingly elaborate schemes to avoid playing the lyre, including pretending to play on one occasion and suggesting that only those with keen perceptive hearing would be able to hear it.
It's the old fairy story, child. The Emperor's new clothes. Yes, I gave it as an idea to Hans Andersen.
Ian is captured trying to enter Rome and forced to fight his friend Delos, but they don't want to kill each other, so they turn on the guards and escape. The Roman Senate hadn't approved Nero's plans to rebuild Rome, but the Doctor accidentally sets fire to Nero's plans, which gives him the idea to burn down the city, forcing the Senate to allow the rebuild.
Fool! Traitor! Brilliant!
𝗃𝗄𝑠 is revealed to be a secret Christian, and he helps Ian and Barbara to escape. After learning that Nero intends to feed him to the lions, the Doctor and Vicky also leave Rome. Vicky suggests that the history books should have mentioned the Doctor for giving Nero the idea to burn down Rome.
Now, look here, young lady, let's settle this, insinuating that all this is my fault. My fault? Ha ha! Oh, 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 oh,
Having escaped Rome, the four travellers all meet up back at the villa and head for the TARDIS.
Huh. Ah. Now that's what they hit me on the head with.
Yes.
A strange power drain forces the TARDIS to materialize on the planet 𝗁𝗃. Vicky has a mysterious headache and the control console starts spinning. Without power, the TARDIS doors won't open, but the Doctor uses his ring and some funky hand signals to force the doors open. The Doctor and Ian explore the planet to find the source of the power drain. They encounter a pool of acid and, in an uncharacteristic display of recklessness, Ian almost washes his hands in it. Fortunately, the Doctor stops him and proves it's acid by dipping in Ian's tie, which was for some reason holding Ian's trousers up.
My pants stay up? Yes, that's your affair, not mine.
Not long after, Ian and the Doctor are captured by the 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝘀, a race of giant ants. Barbara gets mind-controlled and almost walks into the pool of acid, but she's saved by the 𝗵𝗺cie, a race of humanoid butterfly creatures. The 𝗵𝗺cie were the original inhabitants of the planet, but a creature called the 𝗵𝗺mise arrived and spread its web throughout the planet, killing everything in its path and forcing the 𝗵𝗺cie to move their whole civilization to a nearby moon. The 𝗵𝗺mise psychically controls the 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝘀 and deadly woodlouse-like creatures called larvae guns. The moon that the 𝗵𝗺cie moved to can no longer support them, so they have no choice but to retake 𝗁𝗃.
Before the 𝗵𝗺mise came, the flower forest covered the planet in a cocoon of peace.
Barbara gets captured and taken to the Crater of Needles to work for the 𝗵𝗺mise, and the 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝘀 steal the TARDIS, with Vicky still inside. The Doctor converses with the 𝗵𝗺mise.
Who are you? We come in peace.
Peace? Is that why you attack? Where is your main force?
We are alone. We have strayed from our astral plane.
The Doctor tricks the 𝗵𝗺mise, allowing Ian to escape to find Barbara, but instead he finds an underground race of beetle creatures called the 𝗺ptera, who help him to tunnel through to the 𝗵𝗺mise's central control room.
We know that from the roof comes hate, the liquid death.
The 𝗵𝗺mise wants the Doctor to use the TARDIS's astral map to find where the 𝗵𝗺cie invasion force will land. But even though the Doctor outwits the 𝗵𝗺mise multiple times, he is still forced to reveal the information.
Come along, drop this hairdryer or whatever it is.
Eventually, he reverses one of the 𝗵𝗺mise's mind control necklaces and uses his ring to take control of the 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝘀 himself, allowing him and Vicky to escape.
He's quite cute, isn't he, when he's like this?
Well, I haven't noticed it before, my dear, but since you mention it, no, I don't think so.
Meanwhile, the 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝘀 fight off the 𝗵𝗺cie invasion force. Barbara hides with the 𝗵𝗺cie survivors and eventually meets up with the Doctor, who followed the 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝘀's tracks to the battlefield. Barbara comes up with a plan for the remaining 𝗵𝗺cie to create a diversion, while the Doctor and Vicky take the 𝗵𝗺cie's ultimate weapon, the 𝗺𝗬𝗀𝘀, to the 𝗃𝗀𝗁𝗀, the 𝗵𝗺mise's central chamber, to kill the 𝗵𝗺mise. Unfortunately, the Doctor and Vicky are captured by some sort of thrusting appendage that covers them in white sticky stuff. I really hope that's web. Vicky hides the 𝗺𝗬𝗀𝘀 weapon inside the TARDIS's astral map. They are taken to the 𝗃𝗀𝗁𝗀, where they are confronted with the 𝗵𝗺mise itself.
Come to me.
Conveniently, Barbara and the 𝗵𝗺cie find the 𝗺𝗬𝗀𝘀 in the astral map.
Fabulous, look! It's the 𝗺𝗬𝗀𝘀.
They take it to the 𝗃𝗀𝗁𝗀 and kill the 𝗵𝗺mise, just in time to save Vicky and the Doctor. At this point, Ian also pops out of a tunnel. Having saved the planet, the 𝗵𝗺cie, the 𝗺ptera, the 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗀𝘀 and the larvae guns all stand together in peace and watch the TARDIS depart.
We shall weave songs
to praise the gods of light and thank them that they sent the Earth people to save us from the animals.
The TARDIS arrives in 12th century Palestine in the middle of a holy war between the knights of King Richard the Lionheart and the Saracen forces of Saladin. Almost immediately after leaving the TARDIS, Barbara is kidnapped by the Saracen 𝗗𝗃𝗀.
This woman can be made to entertain you. I can have her dance on hot coals, run a gauntlet of sharp-tipped swords.
No!
The Doctor, Ian and Vicky head to King Richard's court, hoping that he will help them to find Barbara.
This woman can rot in one of Saladin's prisons until her hair turns white, before I'll trade with the man that killed my friends.
The Doctor inevitably gets involved in court intrigue.
You stupid butcher! Can you think of nothing else but killing,
You're a man for talk, I can see that. You're like a table in a ring of men. A parley here, arrangements there. But when you men of eloquence have stunned each other with your words, we the soldiers have to face it out.
While at court, Vicky pretends to be a boy because apparently it will make her life easier.
A girl dressed as a boy. Is nothing understandable these days?
Despite all the fighting and invading people, King Richard actually desires peace and intends to marry off his sister Joanna to Saladin's brother as a peace offering.
I am no sack of flour to be given in exchange.
I think it's safe to say that Joanna isn't too keen on that idea, though. King Richard is worried that his own soldiers would prefer war to diplomacy, so he sends Ian to offer the peace deal to Saladin, but not before knighting him Sir Ian.
Arise, Sir Ian, and be valiant.
Barbara tricks 𝗗𝗃𝗀 into thinking she is King Richard's sister Joanna, and when she's found out, she makes 𝗗𝗃𝗀 look like a fool in front of Saladin.
Take me for a fool! You tricked me!
Barbara then escapes from 𝗗𝗃𝗀 with the help of a man called Haroun.
We have a common enemy in 𝗗𝗃𝗀. It makes for uncommon friendship. Come with me.
Haroun's wife and son were murdered by 𝗗𝗃𝗀, and his daughter was forced into 𝗗𝗃𝗀's harem. Barbara sacrifices herself to save Haroun's remaining daughter, and she is eventually taken back to Saladin by 𝗗𝗃𝗀.
The only pleasure left for you is death, and death is very far away.
Barbara escapes again, and this time she is hidden by 𝗗𝗃𝗀's harem.
We will hide you here. We all hate him.
Barbara is eventually discovered, but Haroun arrives and kills 𝗗𝗃𝗀 in time to save Barbara and his lost daughter. Meanwhile, Ian gets staked out in the desert by a bandit and almost eaten alive by hungry ants. Normal-sized ones this time. But he tricks his captor into releasing him and eventually heads to Lydda to meet Barbara and travel back to the TARDIS with her. The Doctor has managed to upset almost everyone back at Richard's castle, so he and Vicky also return to the TARDIS.
I admire bravery and loyalty, sir. You have both of these. But unfortunately, you haven't any brain at all. I hate fools.
One of Richard's knights, the Lord of Leicester, tries to kill the Doctor in the woods near the TARDIS. But Sir Ian arrives and pretends that he also wants to kill the Doctor, allowing them the opportunity to slip into the TARDIS and leave.
Poor Sir Ian, brave fellow, spirited away by fiends. What dreadful anguish and despair he must be suffering now.
Immediately after leaving the 12th century, the travellers freeze momentarily, and then find themselves wearing different clothes.
Doctor, we've got our clothes on.
Well, I should hope so, dear boy, I should hope so.
No, Doctor.
The TARDIS has materialised on the planet 𝗃𝗀, but due to a small component getting stuck, it has jumped a time track. A broken glass repairs itself, the Doctor and his companions leave no footprints and apparently make no sound at all. They explore a huge museum and realise that they are out of sync with time when they see future versions of themselves. And they've been turned into museum exhibits. The travellers philosophise about whether the future is predetermined or whether they can change their fate by making different decisions.
Time, like space, although a dimension in itself, also has dimensions of its own.
The Space Museum is run by the 𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀, a race that were once proud warriors who conquered this planet, killed all the adults, and kept the children as slave labour to turn the planet into a giant museum as a monument to their past glories. However, nobody ever comes to the museum anymore, and the 𝗲𝗀𝗀̀cie here are bored and quite inept.
Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do now. Still, let's get on with it, shall we?
The Doctor and his companions get lost inside the museum and separated. The Doctor avoids capture by beating up a teenager, sadly off camera. And then he hides inside the museum's Dalek exhibit. The Doctor eventually gets captured and interrogated by the 𝗲𝗀𝗀̀cie, but he thwarts their mind-reading machine by showing them random images, including a picture of himself in a full-body swimsuit. Irritated by the Doctor's lack of cooperation and the swimsuit pictures, the 𝗲𝗀𝗀்cie begin to turn the Doctor into a museum exhibit by freezing him. Meanwhile, Ian has been busy fighting everyone and delivering badass one-liners.
You'll be a fool if you kill me. You will achieve nothing.
Possibly, but it might be enjoyable.
Ian rescues the Doctor just in time. Vicky meets the native 𝗲𝗏𝗀s, who are teenagers with slightly too many eyebrows. The 𝗲𝗏𝗀s want to start a revolution and reclaim their planet, but they too are quite inept and don't have any weapons, so Vicky reprograms the astonishingly unsecure computer at the 𝗲𝗀𝗀̀cie armory and gets enough ray guns for everyone. Barbara gets gassed by poison gas, Ian and the Doctor get recaptured, and Vicky decides she would rather look for her friends than join the revolution.
I won't let you go.
I won't let you stop me.
Eventually, the travellers all get captured by the 𝗲𝗀𝗀்cie, and it looks like they are destined to be turned into museum exhibits after all. But then the 𝗲𝗏𝗀s arrive and take control of the museum. Having won their planet back, the 𝗲𝗏𝗀s begin to dismantle the museum, but not before the Doctor takes a souvenir.
The future doesn't look too bad after all, does it?
The TARDIS is travelling through time and space, and Ian is enjoying some serious adult literature. The Doctor took from the Space Museum a time-space visualizer, which is possibly the creepiest device in the universe.
Do you mean a sort of time television?
Yes, like that.
Yes, that's exactly what this is.
No, Doctor, you're kidding.
The Doctor and his companions can now watch any event or any person, anywhere, at any time, doing anything. So after viewing Abraham Lincoln and William Shakespeare, everyone enjoys a performance by the Beatles, especially Ian. The TARDIS materialises on the desert planet Iridius. Ian and Vicky go off to explore the planet while the Doctor and Barbara stay behind to sunbathe, fully clothed of course. You've got to be careful now there's a time-space visualizer on board. Barbara hears the time-space visualizer spring to life, so she goes to switch it off and sees that it's locked on to the Daleks.
The assassination group will embark at once in our time machine. They will pursue the humans through all eternity. They must be destroyed. Exterminate them! Exterminate! Exterminate! Exterminate!
The Daleks refer to the Doctor and his companions as their greatest enemies, and they have created their own time machine, not to conquer all of time and space, but to find the Doctor and exterminate him. Sheltering from a sandstorm, Ian and Vicky are attacked by monsters called 𝗵𝗍 in the caves beneath the sand. The Doctor and Barbara are cut off from the TARDIS by the sandstorm and lost in the desert, but they are helped by the native Iridians, who are fish people who live in the desert. The Daleks have arrived, however, and they threaten to destroy the Iridians unless they turn over the Doctor and his companions. The Iridians agree to the deal, but conveniently the 𝗵𝗍 attack, allowing the Doctor and his companions the opportunity to escape. The Daleks try to destroy the TARDIS, but it resists their neutralizer guns. To get past the Daleks guarding the TARDIS, Ian borrows Barbara's cardigan.
No, not again.
It's for the Dalek, not for me.
To be honest, I don't think it would suit either of them. Ian uses the cardigan to make a classic pit trap and tricks a Dalek into falling down a hole in the desert. The travellers escape into the TARDIS and dematerialise, but the Daleks can now follow them.
We will embark in our time machine at once. The Dalek Supreme has ordered they are to be pursued through all eternity.
The TARDIS arrives at the top of the Empire State Building in New York, 1966.
You're always in a chase.
Chase, yes, as a matter of fact, young man, that's exactly what this is. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must be getting along.
Deciding that there are too many innocent civilians here, they leave straight away and arrive on the infamous 19th century sailing ship, the Marie Celeste, where Vicky hits several people on the head. The Daleks arrive and scare the crew into abandoning ship, and one Dalek rolls itself into the water for some reason. The travellers flee the Daleks again, and this time find themselves in a spooky old house.
Creaking doors, thunder and lightning, monsters, and all the things that go bumpety-bumpety in the night.
The Doctor thinks they're inside a human dream, but actually it's a perfectly harmless haunted house attraction at a festival in 1996. Well, I say perfectly harmless. The animatronic Frankenstein exhibit violently attacks the Daleks, making this possibly the most terrifying haunted house exhibit ever. In the rush to leave the haunted house, the Doctor dematerializes the TARDIS, without Vicky. When the travellers realise that Vicky was left behind, the Doctor explains that the TARDIS cannot return to rescue her.
And you, of all people, should know that the TARDIS can't land in the same time and place twice.
The next destination is the planet Mechanus, a jungle world home to some very bitey sentient mushrooms.
Destroy!
To escape the haunted house, Vicky has stowed away on the Dalek time machine. Good thing they all have tunnel vision. The Daleks have made a robot doctor with instructions to infiltrate and kill. The robot looks so similar to the Doctor, the only way to tell it apart is to look at its completely different face. The robot infiltrates Barbara and tries to kill her, but it's defeated when the real Doctor fights it and pulls out the wiring in its chest. The planet Mechanus is also home to the Mechanoids, large spherical robots designed by humans to prepare the planet ahead of colonists who never arrived. The Mechanoids help the Doctor and his companions to escape from the Daleks, but only because they want to lock them up as specimens. The Mechanoids are also holding another captive, a human spaceship pilot called Stephen Taylor, who crashed on Mechanus 2 years ago and has been locked up in the Mechanoids' human zoo ever since, with only his toy stuffed panda Hi-Fi for company.
Oh, hi-fi, I'm Barbara.
Stephen has built a staircase to the roof of the Mechanoid city, which is 1,500 feet above ground level. Fortunately, the Mechanoids have left approximately 1,500 feet's worth of heavy cable lying around on the roof.
Doctor, I got it!
The Daleks head into the city to give the Mechanoids a classic Dalek greeting.
We attack! We attack! 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 Exterminate them!
Throughout the whole story, the Doctor has been working on an anti-Dalek device, which explodes, causing the city to burn to the ground, taking the Mechanoids and the Daleks with it. Stephen heads back into the burning city to rescue his toy-stuffed panda.
No, Stephen!
Stephen, what are you doing?
Gentlemen, what are you doing? Come back!
Having defeated the Daleks once again, Barbara realises that she and Ian could use the Dalek time machine to return home.
Ian, do you realise we could get home?
Home? Yes. Do you want to?
Yes. I never realised it before.
Neither did I. We may never get another chance.
I've never heard you. Nonsense in my life. You'll end up as a couple of burnt cinders flying around in space. You idiots. You are absolute idiots.
We are not idiots. We want to go home.
Yes, home.
Doctor, you've got to help them.
Don't you realize, child, the enormous risks?
But it's up to them.
The Doctor reluctantly helps Ian and Barbara to fly the Dalek time machine back to Earth.
We made it!
I don't believe it.
London, 1965.
Hey, we're 2 years out.
Oh, what's 2 years amongst friends? We're home.
They destroy the Dalek time machine, relieved that they are no longer aimless wanderers in time and space.
Doctor, they made it! They made it!
𝗗𝗃𝗰𝗁𝗁. 𝗗𝗃𝗰𝗁𝗁. 𝗘𝗽𝗶𝘀𝗀𝘀. Come along, my dear. It's time we were off.
To escape the burning jungles of Mechanus, Stephen has stowed away on the TARDIS. Maybe he picked the lock or something?
Don't call me Doc. Now, do I make myself clear?
Yes, whatever you say, Doc. Sure.
They find themselves on the beach in England in the year 1066.
What do you think of that now, eh? A Viking helmet?
Oh, maybe.
What do you mean, maybe? What do you think it is, a space helmet for a cow?
Whilst explaining that the TARDIS should change its appearance to blend in with its surroundings, if it worked properly, a mysterious monk overhears them speaking and takes an interest in the TARDIS. They decide to explore, and Stephen suggests they split up. Being new to time travel, he obviously doesn't know yet that it's a terrible idea to split up.
But we're lost. We can't stay here all night.
Vicky and Stephen see a man picking something up off the ground, so naturally Stephen decides to punch the man in the face. Stephen still doesn't believe that they've time travelled, so maybe this is an acceptable way to greet someone in his time. After enjoying some mead with a friendly local called Edith, the Doctor overhears some monks singing. But they sound like they've been at the mead too, so he investigates the monastery and finds several things that don't belong, including a gramophone and a prison cell. Meanwhile, a Viking scout party lands and attacks Edith. The Doctor escapes and discovers that the monk comes from the same place that he does, but approximately 50 years after the time that the Doctor left.
It's a TARDIS! The monk's got a TARDIS!
The monk has been meddling with Earth's history, trying to make things better and accelerate the progress of humanity.
You know as well as I do the golden rule about space and time travelling. Never, never interfere with the course of history.
The meddling monk's plan is to change history by helping the English King Harold to defeat William the Conqueror and win the Battle of Hastings. The first step in the plan is to destroy a Viking invasion fleet with an atomic cannon. Since he no longer has to fight off the Vikings, King Harold's army will be fresh when he fights William the Conqueror at Hastings, so Harold will be victorious, and William the Conqueror will instead be known to history as William the guy who brought a knife to an atomic cannon fight.
If the monk changes it, I suppose our memories will change as well.
But that means that the exact minute, the exact second that he does it, every history book, the whole future of every year and time on Earth will change just like that, and nobody will know that it has.
I suppose that's what I'm trying to say.
Or you could cease to exist, so no pressure.
He's got to be stopped. He must be stopped.
The locals hunt down and kill the Viking scout party, and they decide that the monk must be a Viking spy. The Doctor decides to put a stop to the monk's meddling once and for all.
And remember, no more monkery.
The Doctor leaves a letter for the monk, basically gloating.
I've taken precautions to stop your time meddling.
He removes the dimensional control from the monk's TARDIS, making it smaller on the inside.
Ah, there it is! Ha ha! I've done it, I've done it, I've done it.
He's ruined my time machine. I'm marooned. Marooned!
The monk is left marooned in 1066 with nothing. Well, nothing but a comprehensive knowledge of future events, a monastery full of futuristic equipment, and an atomic cannon. So I'm sure we won't be seeing him again. Pleased to have protected the timeline, the TARDIS crew return to their ship.
He's the crew, we're just the passengers.
Aren't we all?